So, you know, over the weekend I was screening, and I'd been thinking about this over recent weeks, and like that. Um, it's always tough to find the turnarounds using our typical screens because usually the earnings aren't there yet, and so they often they're showing good price action, but their EPS ratings or composite ratings aren't very high, and so then how do you go looking for these stocks, especially when we're entering a phase where there's these stocks showing up. So I started thinking about Mosaic, and this is one that had a big move back in 2006, 2007, and so we have the ability to go back and grab data from way back when, and so I wanted to know, okay, when it was. Let me change the date here to.
Get out your pens or pencils if you want to follow along with this lesson plan
so
here.
9/29/2006, and this out of the way and zoom in a little bit too.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so I want to reset. So it's going sideways. It's just above the 200-day. Actually, I'm on a monthly. Let's go to the weekly. So the 40-week. So it's been going sideways, and it's tightened up, made it a cup with handle above the 200-day. And I was curious, what did it look like? What were the numbers like? How would you find this? And at that time, the relative rating was 75. The annual estimates were 439% for the coming year and 37% for the next year, although the EPS rating was only an 8 and the composite rating was a 47. And so that's where this just wouldn't really show up on our screens. Yeah. And I found that this was very common for a lot of these stocks. And then let's take a look at what happened after that. And we'll jump out, let's say go a few months. And it broke out and started trending higher and just kept going. And, it was just a fantastic move. And so this is where we were looking at it right there. So, so in looking at more cyclical stocks, I kept seeing the same thing happening over and over. So let's look at Mosaic in 2020. And I think it was in
11/20.
11/20/2020. We'll get there. Okay. And here it is again, had been in a downtrend, but now, broke above the 200-day, building a base here and retaking the 50-day and also above the 200 days. So on that day, it had an RS rating of 78, annual estimates of 105% and 205%. Again, the EPS was only 54. The rating, and the composite rating was 60, and usually we're looking at least in the 80s, and typically 90 and 90 for all those numbers. Again, we know what happened after that. This thing really took off, and so this is where we are back then, and it made this big move here, set up a couple times and ran up again. So I started looking in other, so there we are in the fertilizer area. Let's take a look at FCX in the metal ores, and if you go back to 7/31, 2020. So here it is. It had not been doing anything, got hit by COVID, but then started rallying back up, and actually was, making a little bit of a tight area here. And at that time, if you were, searching for stocks like this, you could have found it because RS was 77. It's above the 200-day. The annual estimates are 466% and 32%. Again, EPS rating 68, nothing to be real impressed about. The composite on this one was pretty good at 81. And then again, we look and see where it went, and that's the area we were looking at right down there. And so if you didn't take advantage of that outside day, and that would have been hard to do because it had just been consolidating for 3 weeks, you did get this pull back to the 10-week right there. And in fact, Justin and I were putting this on repeatedly on Swing Trader at the time because we run screens looking for fundamentals, but then we also just run screens looking for technical strength. And so it kept coming up for us there. Steel Dynamics is another one. And if we go to, let's see, I'll just show the 10/30/2020. So right in here, so it has now come up, and the RS rating was a little low at this point, but on this pullback, sorry, it was this pullback to the 10-week, it was now had a relative strength rating of 77, 466% in forward earnings, 32% the next year, and EPS of 68 and 81. So the key elements are: is it above the 200-day? Is the relative strength greater than 70? And then are you getting big estimates? Now, David was talking about earlier in the week how LXU, even though it was lower priced and just created this beautiful flag here, so super tight, came right into the 10-week. Again, if you were searching for it, it would have come up because the RS was 98. Estimates were 159% in the coming year. And again, EPS rating was 52 and composite was 72. So these are not going to come up on your typical screens, but then they'll take off. And then the last one I wanted to show in the oil area, we've got Antero, and going back to, again, I'm going to have to change the scale. Okay. 11/20/2020. So it's had been in a downtrend, got back above the 200-day, made a base that failed, and then another base here. At the time, RS was 91. The next year estimate was minus 400%, but the following year was 349%. And so again, that unleashed a tremendous move that a lot of people have taken advantage of. So in agriculture, we had MOS and LXU, FCX in mining, Steel Dynamics, obviously in steel, and then AR in oil and gas. So 5 different cyclical areas, and they all have the same look and share the same characteristics. So after looking at that, then I went in and made a screen that I'm calling Cyclicals plus the 200-day, and it's pretty simple screen. It's and to get LXU, I lowered the price to 3, which not typically my way of doing things, but AR was very cheap too. When it started moving, it was at $4 a share. So A lot of times these things have been really, pounded, and then they turn around. 10 million in dollar volume. It's got to be above the 200-day, 70 on the RS rating, and then 50% on the next year's EPS estimate. And then you could do another version and screen for the following year's EPS estimate. But what's remarkable is you only have to look at 97 companies. That's not really that many companies to get through on a especially over the weekend when you're doing a bunch of screening. So I thought it was
take a peek.
Yeah. So there's names that we're definitely seeing right now. And
it's not, it's going to capture other stuff
right
than cyclicals, but
yeah, and that's the thing. I call it cyclicals, but I'm not putting in the industry groups. If you really wanted to, you could go in and put in cyclical industry groups, but it's also capturing things that are turnarounds or just turning profitable. So Evolent is one that we've talked about a lot recently, and Celsius, that would come up on this. We got Sinclair, which was doing all right. AMR, Alpha Medical. Now, this probably would have come up much earlier, but it's interesting how we're getting some of these that are still around, but also I think I'm not.
Yeah, Lantheus. I saw Lantheus on there.
Yeah, Lantheus. Yeah, so it's also capturing some of these emerging growth stocks. So it's actually kind of an interesting screen to run in any market.
Right.
And again, it's very simple, and we'll post these. Actually, I shared it on MarketSmith, and my sign-on, thanks to our former parent company going years ago, it's IED
33. I couldn't find it though.
Yeah, but other screens do come up, so it'll probably take a day or two before it gets in the system. I'm not sure how it works. Maybe
they
there's
do a batch
weekly
processing. Yeah.
at the end of the week, so you don't get it that way. But again, very simple. $3.
Exactly. But people take a photo with their cell phone of this, right?
Yeah.
Screen grab, screenshot.
Yeah. Maybe Justin, if you can put the parameters in the Q&A, that's another way that we can do it. So anyhow, it caught my interest, looking at some of these stocks and like, okay, how can we find them? And
casting a wider net.
Exactly. And it's not that wide of a net.
Yeah.
Because you're also getting a lot of stocks that are setting up.
Yeah, and with all screens, this is just a starting point, right? You have to look at the chart, because especially if you are looking for more turnaround names, maybe you are loosening the requirement on, relative strength or current estimates or not current estimates, but the actual, most recent quarters of results, maybe.
Yeah.
Then you need to check the chart and put that into context. Where is it in the move?
Right. Exactly. And the fact is, if you do this on a regular basis, you'll find these stocks when they first come up above.
Right. Like the examples you were showing.
Yeah. The 200-day. Now the Minervini screens probably could capture them too. I'm not sure what the other parameters are in those that if there are other fundamental criteria, but this seems to be what all these cyclicals held in common before they made their big moves.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching Investors Business Daily on YouTube. If you want to watch more videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.